Welcome to the Sellernomics podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here is your host, Lisa Kinski.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. My name is Lisa Kinski, and I'm your host for today. And I have with me a very familiar face in the Amazon e-commerce LinkedIn sphere. His name is John Aspinall. He's coming to us as the brand evangelist at PickFu, and we're going to be talking about how to optimize your main hero image on Amazon. So let's bring him on board. John, how are you?
Hello, welcome. I am a father of three, and I'm very exhausted and tired. Is coming off of this Father's Day, but I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Happy belated Father's Day. How old are the babies?
They are. Well, you heard one screaming before, so hopefully that's not the 9-year-old. But I have a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So apparently, every 3 years we lose our minds and have another kid. Don't worry, we're not having any more. So I'm on the hook for at least another 15 years. Until I'm able to have some freedom and go and do my own thing.
At least. Well, John, thank you so much for energizing enough to be here with me today. So I want to just jump straight into it. So let's talk about optimizing the main hero images. What are some of the mistakes that sellers make when choosing their main hero image for their product on Amazon?
That's a great question. I see this time and time again. Take, for example, supplement space. Best practice in the supplement space is showing the package, showing the product outside the package, showing the ingredient, and showing a value prop, whether that's 3 months supply, made in the US, anything like that. Where a lot of supplement brands fall flat is they just put the bottle up there. They don't show the actual product inside. They're not showing the ingredient. They're not showing the value prop because they're a little too scared based on Amazon's guidelines, terms of service for photos being white background, just the image itself, where many times over, I'm able to show people Amazon 1P partners don't follow that, which you would think they would. And even Amazon directly with like their Solimo brand or Amazon, Basics, they're not doing this. Great example of that is Amazon Basics has Ziploc bags or food storage bags because Ziploc is trademarked. And based on their guidelines, it should just be a clear bag on a white background. But no, It has the box behind it. It has the bag in front of it. It's showing a value prop next to it. So all these kind of things we're talking about today are things you should be doing on your main hero image, as long as you're in the right lane. And what do I mean by that? If you're in the footwear, shoes category, don't do any of these things, because certain categories that Amazon has kind of gated or vaulted, you can't do that. So like shoes, for example, you can't show the box behind the shoes. You can't show, rubber sole, whatever it is, because that's a very tight wrapped knit category. Very similar to books, very similar to some apparel, right? Anything that I found that Amazon has a grasp on, meaning that's their claim to fame, being books, and then they purchase Zappos, now it's shoes. Can't do that. But supplements is the Wild West. So, for example, with supplements, the example I gave, if you're just putting a bottle up there and you're not showing the capsules, the tablets, the ingredients, the value prop, you're losing money. You're leaving money on the table, 1,000%.
That is something I never would have considered, because you were like, shoes is a sticky category. I'm like, why? It's shoes. But I completely forgot about the Zappos piece of it. But let's back it up. So main hero image, you search, creatine on Amazon, and it's all the first pictures that come up, right? It's what creates that tile of thumbnail images. You're saying to have all of these elements on that one image that shows up at the top of search results? That feels a little busy.
Yeah, so you want to do it strategically. So we're talking about creatine. We're talking about creatine powder, for example. If you search creatine powder or protein powder, which is very similar, you're going to get canisters. That's typically the packaging that would be for that product. So you'll get like GNC, which is a huge, multi-million-dollar brand in the space. They don't really care about doing best practice. They're GNC. So they're just going to have the product itself, and that's it. But the product next to them is probably a smaller SMB that's looking to kind of ride up in the ranks, get a better BSR, get some more sales. They have to stand out from GNC some way. It's not going to be the brand, right? So what they're able to do is, if you're having a protein powder or creatine powder, behind the bottle, we're doing a little powder that's showing giving transparency what the powder looks like. If the powder is a flavor, let's say it's a strawberry flavor, put a little strawberry on the side of it. A lot of times with drinks, what they'll do is they'll even put a clear glass of water. What's mixed in, what does it look like as a final result? So what this does is this gives more and more transparency to the shopper, where if they, especially if you're doing a sponsored, product ad on this, or you're paying to be at the top, you want people, if they love strawberry, to click on it because I love strawberry. But also on the other end of it, if people don't like strawberry and you're paying for placement and it's not clear that it's a strawberry flavor, they click on your paid ad and then they land on your product detail page and they see, oh, this is strawberry. Oh, I don't like this. And they leave. That's wasted ad spend. And your ACOS goes up and your tacos goes up. And that's not good. It's not the good kind of tacos. Good kind of tacos are on Tuesday. That's the bad kind of tacos. So yeah, you definitely want to have a little, again, you don't want to inundate your image and just go wild with it, right? You want to be very strategic. A lot of times I'll see people that are brands that are putting, the typical image of like raining down, capsules or supplements all over the background. That's way too much, right? Or even if they show like a mound of the pills or tablets, I would say best practice is if it's 2 servings, show 2. If it's 3 servings, show 3. Because a lot of times, getting back into the supplement space, people don't like tablets, they like capsules. Capsules can be broken up. Capsules can be added to things. People have swallowing issues. Maybe if it's an older person, they want to see if it's chewable. How many times have you purchased a supplement? And I know I have some vitamin D or vitamin E in my cabinet. It's like a horse tranquilizer. It's huge. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, yes.
If I have a swallowing issue, then maybe I don't want to click on that. Maybe I want to go to something else. Or just giving a better customer experience and better transparency can never go wrong. And a really great example of this for the naysayers out there that are like, oh, I'm not going to do this. Go take a look at sheets. Go type on Amazon 4-piece bed sheets. I guarantee you that you're not going to see a white background with folded sheets up there. You're going to see an image of a bedroom, a lifestyle image of a bedroom with a bed with sheets on it. And not once in the history of Amazon, I could be wrong, has anyone ever left negative feedback saying, I bought this for $49 and I didn't get the bed frame. I didn't get the lamp on the nightstand. I didn't get any of the stuff in the image. How dare you? Because people understand. People are a lot smarter than Amazon or brands give them credit for. And they need to see that. They need to see what the experience looks like. They need to see a lot more. And the brands that really focus on this are getting the clicks. Because at the end of the day, really, it all starts with the click. Abraham Lincoln said that back in the day. I'm not sure if you know about that. That was actually.
I don't.
I always say it always starts with the click, and I put a famous person on the end to give it a little bit more. But if you look at like the search query performance report on Amazon, right? It's impressions, clicks, add to carts, and purchases, right? So it's a flow. So you have to be seen, you have to get clicked, they have to add the cart as far as the conversion, and they have to purchase. Now those first 3 you can affect. The purchase, it's a gamble, right? You can't force people to purchase, but your product detail page is what's going to get them to add it to cart. But to get to the product detail page, it all starts with that click.
Yeah. And in your experience, what elements of the image tend to have the most significant impact on CTR, maybe in a positive way? Because you had said before, maybe like leaving out that it's strawberry flavored if somebody wants strawberry, or if they're looking for blueberry specifically, like not being specific enough could impact it. What else could really impact that CTR, that click-through rate? Yeah.
So things like flavor, things like showing the actual product, showing things like if it's made in the US. I can't tell you how many times I've seen something that's consumable that's made in the US that's not called out on the main hero image. China is great for lots and lots of things. Technology, advancement, gadgets, all that kind of good stuff. Most folks don't want to ingest something. I mean, China even has fantastic food, right? But there's just some stigma behind mass-produced supplements in a factory in China that turns people off a little bit, and they really want something that's more made in the US. So I find a lot of brands that are consumable products that are made in the US are not calling that out on their main hero image. And that's really what's going to get a lot of clicks for that, because it's more transparency. So flavor, scent is a big one too. So if you're in the space of, candles, which please don't go into candles. It's so heavy for logistics and there's so many of them. But candles, air fresheners, oils, essential oils, people need to smell through the screen. I know that's not possible yet, even though AI is advancing every single moment yet. But people need to see, and it's going to behoove you, because the people that love it are going to click, and the people that don't love it, they're not going to click, but that's okay. You're not for everyone. So I think if you're a scent, show the scent. If you're a flavor, show the flavor. I think if it's something that's inside a package, you most definitely have to show it in front of the package and give transparency. And then you really need to have a value prop, right? So if you're in the space of 500 milligram magnesium capsules, and everyone's a 500 milligram magnesium capsule on the SERP, right? Maybe yours is this ingredient free, or maybe yours is vegan, or maybe yours is sugar free. I know like a lot of melatonin gummies or melatonin products. I know about this because I have 3 kids who are crazy and they have to take melatonin. No, I'm kidding, but I'm really not. Some of the melatonin products are, they'll say melatonin free, and it's more of an organic kind of non-melatonin. And that's important to some people. So understanding in a sea of purple, which is what melatonin is, because sleepy, tired, nighttime, Tylenol PM or NyQuil, it's all purpley greens kind of color. So how do you stand out from that? Well, you could do a post edit on the actual packaging itself that no one is going to care about, no one's going to complain about, as long as it's true and it's adding value. So those are a lot of things you do want to talk about on the main image.
Yeah. And I loved what you said before about if it behooves you to be as specific and transparent in your listing as possible. And if people don't click on it, that's okay, because you're not for everyone, which I think can kind of hit people right in the heart, right? Because for a lot of business owners, their product is their baby and their business is their baby, and their livelihood is tied to this product. So kind of along that same vein, what role does emotions play on, I guess, kind of the selection of the hero image? Do you find that people are really getting attached to that? And then also, you talked about it a little bit, but the emotions from the consumer side as well of clicking on the image. Talk to us about both halves.
Yeah, so I think as a first of all, that's a very rough space to be when you're a solopreneur and an inventor of a product, because you have blinders on and you think your product is for anyone and everyone, and the world needs to see it and everyone needs to buy it. A good case in point is stainless steel water bottles. There's a million on Amazon, and when people come out with them, they think they're the next Contigo, they're the next Stanley. Don't ask me how I know about Stanley, because I've purchased way too many for my wife and they're expensive for absolutely no reason. But anyway, not in reference to Rob Stanley. He's fantastic. But the Stanley Cups, and not the hockey one. So, but understanding that if you're a $39.99 stainless steel cup, and you have this added thing inside of it that makes it whatever, cooler, colder for longer, maybe you have a little accessory on the outside, that's great. Just because everyone should drink water, not everyone drinks water. And not everyone that drinks water is going to be able to afford a $39.99 container to put water or their drinks in. And then now, as we narrow it down a little bit more, for the people that do drink water every day and that can afford it to purchase it, how are you different than the competition? And why are you different than the competition? So I tell people all the time, us versus them. If you don't have that story in your photo stack or in your product detail page, you don't have to call out the competition directly. As a matter of fact, don't do that. But what you can do is say us versus them. Us, we have 48 hours keep you colder. Typical competition, only 24 hours. These are the benefits that people want to see. And when you start to tap into the benefits over the features, that's when you're hitting the emotion for the consumer. Because the emotion really doesn't hit when you say, insulated, double-walled, stainless steel bottle. That doesn't mean anything. That's a feature. That means nothing to me. But if you say, keeps your drink cold or keeps your water cold for 48 hours, and even the ice too, that's the benefit. So I think more brands need to focus on the benefits of their product, not the features. Another good example is like a food blender or food processor. I saw one listing that said, we have a turbo engine inside of it that spins, and the blades are 38, degrees, and, angled it this way, and they're going to chop okay, great. But, the benefit is, okay, I'm able to make soup from vegetables in 60 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm able to crush ice without it getting jammed, because that's a typical pain point someone has when they're making margaritas or something like that. So I think focusing on the benefits is a huge factor in tapping into the emotions and emotional psychology when people are shopping, versus just bombarding them with features.
I totally agree. We are going to take a very short break here from our sponsor, but we're going to jump right back into this conversation in just a minute.
Boosting your Amazon FBA profits have never been easier. Thanks, Getida. We handle the complex process of FBA refund recovery so that you don't waste time. Sellernomics listeners, claim your first $400 in free reimbursements by visiting Getida.com/Sellernomics. Experience hassle-free profit growth with Getida today.
All right, y'all, be sure to head over to Getida.com/Sellernomics for that first 400 in FBA reimbursements free. We are back with John Aspinall with PickFu. And before we kind of continue the conversation about, optimizing the hero image and selection of it, I want to hear your perspective on how sellers get these product images to begin with. Are you pro AI? Sometimes, pro AI all the time, or do you still recommend that folks go to traditional product photographers for these images?
So I'm pro AI to an extent, right? So understanding that AI is evolving every single day, probably every single minute. I use a whole myriad of tools. The best ones I found are Midjourney, which is actually, you have to access it through Discord, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But something like this versus like a DALL-E, which is the image generator inside of ChatGPT, it is never going to be natural, especially if you're looking for a lifestyle image. 9 out of 10 times when I do that, I'm counting people's fingers, because I'm like, oh my God, this guy has 7 fingers. Like, how does AI not understand you need to have 7 fingers? You don't need 7 fingers, rather. But I think that there's a lot of cool things that people could be doing, and brands that are just getting, the more the SMB, bootstrap, solopreneurs, they're like, I got a great concept, but I don't want to spend $10,000 on a photo shoot, because it's very painful when you do a photo shoot and it's very regimented, written in stone. That's it. Here's the deliverables. And then what if something has to change? How are you supposed to change it? What are you supposed to do? Another $10,000 photo shoot? Like, it's too costly. So I'm a big fan of bootstrapping and doing the basics, and then peppering it in with some AI. What do I mean by that? So I always tell people, and if anyone's watching this, keep it a secret, because this is a little hidden hack that I don't tell lots of people, but Lisa's very nice, so I'm going to tell you my secret. Lisa, do you have a JC Penney's near you?
Yes, sort of. 20 minutes away.
That's close. I tell people all the time, go to JC Penney's portrait studios, the same place that you get your Christmas photos, your family photos, your newborn photos, all that kind of stuff. Bring your products in there. Bring your gadget, bring your widget. I'm trying to think on my desk if I have anything. Oh, shout out Amazon. If you have an Alexa, right? Something like this. And you don't want to do the typical iPhone photos, and you can't afford the $10,000 or whatever it is, the super expensive price for a photographer, which photographers are good, right? But it gets costly. Go to like a portrait studio near you. I just referenced JCPenney because they pay me. I'm totally kidding. And go there, and it's going to cost you maybe about $200 or $300 for unlimited access to your photos in a digital download. And you can go there. Bring a friend if you're not comfortable to be on camera. Bring your ICP of what they're supposed to look like, and take pictures holding it like this with a plain background. Take pictures on a table. Take pictures from different angles. Have the photographer do all that. Then you have your master file then you could take something like that, import it into Canva. Canva is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's interesting that the whole bandwagon is on Canva now because of the whole Amazon ads integration. But when I was talking about Canva, 2 or 3 years ago, everyone was like, Canva is just for people that don't know how to use Photoshop. No, it's much more than that. So under $20 a month for a subscription, and you're able to unlock all of these tools, which is what you need for someone that's just getting started, or you don't want to pay all these people to do it, because you're taking those photos that you got at like a portrait studio for only a couple $100, you could drop the background. You could put it, then here's where AI comes in that makes it a little bit better, is you can go to something like Midjourney, and I strongly recommend Midjourney over any photo AI generation tool out there, because Midjourney, you can give it super heavy prompts that say, create a realistic image shot on a Canon DSLR from top angle down of a high-end kitchen or a high-end desk made out of this kind of wood with this kind of setup. And then what you can do is it's going to generate that, and you can use that as the background for the real image that was taken in the photo studio for a fraction of the price. And now you can pivot. And now if you're looking to do some seasonal merchandising changes, meaning if you're selling that speaker and now that desk, you want to look like Christmas for Christmas time, or, maybe it's, you're running a Father's Day and you want to show like dad sitting over there, right? Or a man's hands or something like that. You're able to do that and make it look a little bit more realistic versus having to, because if you're looking to do seasonal merchandising changes with photo studios, like a photographer, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars a year trying to pivot and change. So that's my biggest hack, under a couple $100 to go get your realistic photos taken, and then going and pivoting. And if you really want to amp it up, spend a couple more $100 at that same thing, because I think they charge more per person. Mm-hmm. Oh, and hire friends that are relatively good looking. I will say that. Don't get people that look like they've been through it. And have them stand there laughing, smiling, because whatever the background is, you can opt for a green screen background at these photo studios. And then you can just chroma key it out and then just put some realistic image and then blur it. So a lot of cool things you can do on the cheap.
Yeah, definitely. That is such a huge hack. And then what you said about counting fingers too, I just want to throw this out there as AI slowly takes over the world. I just saw a reel where the woman was like, here are 7 photos. Only one of them is not AI generated. Can you tell which one it is? And I just learned that AI can't do words yet, really. So when it's a fully AI generated image, if it doesn't have the weird 9 fingers thing, or they don't have, multiple sets of ears, look for any text, street signs or copy on a bag. It's gibberish. It's not real.
It almost looks like old English. I don't know what language it thinks it does. It almost looks like very olden Gothic kind of language mixed with, European. I don't really know, but it almost looks like real words. But when you zoom in, you're like, this is like a lorem ipsum kind of filler text from the moon or something.
Yeah, it's very off, but it's hard to tell at first glance. So with your hero images and talking about optimizing them in this ever-changing space of Amazon and the algorithm and, even consumer behavior, how can sellers stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah. So I think the important thing is you always want to test. You always want to see whether you're doing other tools or even manage your experiments within Amazon. You always have to take a look at your SERP based on your keywords. So if you're selling ice cream scoops, right? If you're only looking at your image constantly, you're not seeing the landscape of what others are doing, which you should be, right? You should be taking a look in your search terms and saying, if I type in ice cream scoop, who's coming up? Am I coming up number 1? Am I coming up number 2? Who's next to me? Who's below me? Who's over here? And if you start to see your competition creeping up, doing all these other things that people are doing, right? Adding a box in the background, adding different colors, adding different elements. These are all things that you want to be doing as well.
Okay. And then what about different target audiences when optimizing? We're kind of getting a little bit into what PickFu does, and we can kind of dabble in that now, but split testing, A/B testing, how do you know where your product is going to land, who it's going to land with, when you have the perspective of, my product is amazing, everybody needs to see it, I'm for everybody, I am the Stanley Cup of calculators,
Yeah. I think it's important. I do have some people breaking into my office now. Oh, it's my children. Sorry about that. Well, you can edit that out. But I think it's important to understand where you lie, right? Like, are you the best? Are you the worst? Who is your demographic, right? So understanding, if you don't know who your ICP, if you don't know who your avatar is, you're flying blind. So if you're building these assets and building these images and building all these elements inside, for example, if you were selling supplements for 50 plus, men that are 50 plus. You want to point out elements in your image and all your assets that are important to people that are men in their 50 plus. You don't want to focus on things that aren't important to them. So it's really compelling things that trigger emotion that you really want to focus on. So you might see your competition that's saying, oh, we're 500 milligrams or we're this added benefit. But if you know your ICP and you know your avatar, by the way, I had to look up what ICP meant. I use it all the time, but I didn't know actually what ICP stood for. Anyway, but if you know that, then you can tap into their pain and say, hey, listen, this is what you need, and do that post edit for sure.
And ICP, ideal customer profile. That's what I've always called it. That is it, right?
That's what I looked it up, and that's correct.
Okay.
I did use ChatGPT. I knew what it meant, but I never knew what it broken down.
What it stood for.
What it stood for. And then I used ChatGPT because, as everyone does, and it brought up insane clown pasta, and I was like, this is most definitely not what it is.
It is, but not in the context we are hoping for.
Yes, you don't want to make sure that the insane clown posse is relating to your product. That might not yield you good sales, or maybe if you're like the juggalos or whatever they're called, and
right.
What depends on what you're selling.
That's what they're called. That is so funny. John, to kind of wrap up the episode, for sellers who are new to either selecting their hero image, they've got a first product, or they're new to this idea of testing whether or not their hero image works, what would your advice be for those sellers?
Are you leading me to PickFu?
Gently.
So PickFu, there's a couple other tools out there. What I really liked about PickFu and why I came on board with PickFu and why it's important to use PickFu is giving you the data. If you're not data driven, you're guessing, you're flying blind. So with something like PickFu, you're able to say, take a snapshot of a SERP and do click tests to see where people are looking. Then you're able to drill down and see this or that, my image or their image. Then you're able to take that data and then restructure your image to make it a little bit better versus your competition. But a really big important thing also to note with why PickFu is that we're not Amazon sellers. We have no horse in the game. We have nothing like that. A lot of other tools that are out there are based on people that are also selling private label themselves, right? So your data security is super important to us. It's super important to make sure that you're getting the right information, because a lot of times if there wasn't something like PickFu that was out there, you're basically asking your friends, your family, your spouse, your boss, and all they're doing is basically going to tell you what you want to hear versus what you need to hear, right? You need to hear why your image stinks. You need to hear why it's not good. And most folks around you in your little bubble, they're just going to say what you want to hear versus really give you that raw data that you need to have. Like, it's almost like, hey, shoot me straight. Tell me what you really feel. And they're going to tell you in the PickFu, and you're able to actually pivot in real time, because typical PickFu you get back in less than 15 minutes versus traditional focus groups is thousands of dollars, multiple weeks. And that's, in Amazon, that's like a death sentence. You don't want to wait that long.
Oh yeah. You have to move too quickly. And even if you do have a trusted circle that's going to be honest with you, they might not have the right opinion. Like you were saying before, if you have a supplement that's for men 50 plus, don't ask me what the hero image should look like and what to call out. I have no, I can tell you if it looks pretty, but like, I can't tell you if what you're calling out is actually worthwhile. I don't know.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing with PickFu, right? We have 90 plus different traits for you to drill down. So you don't want feedback if you're doing a supplement for men over 50 from women. If you're doing a supplement for, PMS symptoms and men, all that kind of stuff, you don't want my opinion, because I might be like, this looks great. This looks fantastic. I love it. Great image. But then it's not going to resonate with my wife, who is probably the person who's going to be buying the product. So it's really, really super important, paramount, critical, crucial, insert another adjective here, that you're getting the feedback from the proper people and not someone that's not your avatar or your ICP. I love saying avatar over ICP, though. It makes me feel super fancy, like I'm the last airbender. I don't know why.
I think of the James Cameron movie, all the blue people.
The giant blue people. Yeah, yeah. That's like 2.5 hours long that I fall asleep halfway through all the time.
Yes, for sure. Do you watch it often? Never mind. That's a side conversation for later.
when instead of melatonin, I just flick on Avatar and I'm right as
There
rain
we
to go to
go.
sleep.
That is me and Top Gear. John, anything else to point out about PickFu specifically? This is probably the most gentle transition we've gone into about promoting the brand, but I think everybody is, somewhat familiar with the tool if they weren't already, but any specifics to call out about, recent or upcoming improvements or maybe about the pricing? Because you guys work on a, not a point system, but it's like a votes. Talk about that.
Yeah. So it's basically, it's roughly about $1 per response, right? So if you're looking at a 15-person response, it's about $15. But it's not a subscription reoccurring thing, at least just yet. It's basically 15, 30, 50, 100, 200, 500 person polls. So it's constantly always be testing, right? It's not ABC always be closing, it's ABT always be testing. So you want to iterate over and over again. So start off with a 50-person poll, right? And then when you have to run it again, you go to 30-person. So cost-wise, we're looking at multiple polls in the $20 to $30 to $60 range. So we're not breaking the bank by any means. But if you're watching this and you want some freebie credits, Lisa, what do they have to do to get that? Because I'm feeling very generous today with my kids screaming in the background. So I want to give away some free credits.
If you want to send them to a URL, if they just need to shout you out in an email, just whatever is the best way, let us know.
Yeah, if you want to email me, Aspinall@PickFu.com, because John was definitely already taken, but Aspinall@PickFu.com, and mention that you heard and/or saw on Sellernomics. Happy to get you set up and rocking and rolling and get you addicted to the foo, as I call it. I'm trying to have that catch on. It's not catching like fire just yet, but addicted to the foo is something that I might put on a shirt.
I like it though. And for the audio listeners, John's email is Aspinall, his last name, ASPINALL @PickFu.com, PICKFU. And you guys can always check out PickFu at their website, PickFu.com.
But when you spell PickFu, just
the end of it is a little I need to run through it a little. You
gotta run through it a little bit more. You can't be pick and then foo, because then it starts to sound like a little bit like
I know it sounds aggressive. I apologize, listeners, but it's the dyslexia. I've just got to get it out right, and just if it's slow, it's got it.
But even if you did it PICKFU, it almost sounds a little passive aggressive at that point too. Then it's like KFU. Just spell fast is all.
It's better written.
Yeah, definitely better written. Much more context written.
Oh my gosh. Anything else to leave the listeners with, John, before we sign off?
No, definitely, also follow on LinkedIn. And my first name, last name, John Aspinall at LinkedIn. I talk about content all the time. I put out content all the time about CTR, how to make more without spending more, and really how to use tools that you probably already have peppered in with some PickFu to really make a substantial difference in your business, because it really does all start with the click. I think it was Michelangelo, or I don't know, whatever random person I said that before, always does say that, because it really truly does. Because you could have the greatest product in the world, but if people aren't clicking, they are not buying.
Yeah, exactly. John, thank you so much for being here with me today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lisa. This has been fun.
Thanks. And thanks so much for everyone who listened in. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, share your thoughts with us in the comments, subscribe to the show, and we will see you all on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.